Okay, now let's do the tribes. Madam Pamela was ahead of us. The tribes, we do the deathbed blessing as well. We do Jacob and Esau. When it comes to the tribes, still looking at the J and E, we are not too much particular about the P and then the R or the D. Genesis 29:31. Again, highlighted in pink is the J source. Anything that is not highlighted is the E source. Genesis 29:31. And Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh saw that Leah was hated, so he opened her womb. But Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she named him Reuben. For he said, because Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh had seen my affliction, for now my husband will love me. And she conceived again and bore a son, and she said, since Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh has heard that I am hated, he gave me this one too. So she named him Semen. And she conceived again and bore a son, and she said, now this time my husband will be attached to me, for I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore he named him Levi. And she conceived again and bore a son, and she said, this time I will thank Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. Therefore she named him Judah. And then she stopped bearing. Okay, 30. And Rachel saw that she had not borne any children to Jacob. Verse 4. So she gave him her maidservant Bilhah for a wife, saying, may Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh grant me yet another son. It came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, send me away, and I will go to my place and to my land. Give me my wives and my children for whom I worked for you, and I will go, for you know my work which I have worked for you. Not my focus. My focus is from 31 to verses 4 in chapters 30. Yes. Notice, this is the J source. Notice that J is only interested in Reuben, Simon, Levi, Judah. Those are the only tribes J mentions. Put that in your spirit. It's important. Okay. J is only interested in Reuben, Simon, Levi, and Judah itself. Awesome. Let's read the E source. Genesis 30. And Rachel envied her sister, and she said to Jacob, give me children, and if not, I am dead. And Jacob became angry with Rachel, and he said, am I instead of God or Elohim, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? So she said, here is my maidservant Bilhah. Come to her, and she will bear children on your knees, so that I, too, will be built up from her. And Jacob came to her. See how it flows beautifully. And Bilhah conceived, and she bore Jacob a son. And Rachel said, Elohim has judged me, and he hath also hearkened to my voice, and has given me a son. So she named him Dan. Awesome. Now the northern tribes, they've been mentioned. And Bilhah, Rachel's maidservant, conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, with divine bonds I have been joined to my sister. I have also prevailed. So she named him Naphtali, another northern tribe. Awesome. When Leah saw that she had stopped bearing children, she took her maidservant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob for a wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maidservant, bore Jacob a son. And Leah said, luck has come. So she named him Gad. And Zilpah, Leah's maidservant, bore Jacob a second son. And Leah said, because of my good fortune, for women have declared me fortunate. So she named him Asher. Reuben went in the days of the wheat harvest, and he found dudaim in the field and brought them to Leah, his mother. And Rachel said to Leah, now give me some of your sons dudaim. Okay. And she said to her, is it a small matter that you have taken my husband, that you wish also to take my sons dudaim? So Rachel said, therefore he shall sleep with you tonight as payment for your sons dudaim. When Jacob came from the field in the evening, and Leah came forth towards him, and she said, you shall come to me, because I have hired you with my sons dudaim. And he slept with her on that night. And Elohim hearkened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. And Leah said, Elohim has given me my reward, for I have given my maidservant to my husband. So she named him Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and she bore Jacob a second son. And Leah said, Elohim has given me a good portion. This time my husband will live with me, for I have borne him 6 sons. So she named him Zebulun. And afterwards she bore a daughter, and she named him Dinah. And Elohim remembered Rachel, and Elohim hearkened to her, and he opened her womb, and she conceived and bore a son. And she said, Elohim has Elohim has taken away my reproach. And she named him Joseph. 41. Okay, so now we have the children of Jacob, direct children of Jacob. But now we have Ephraim and Manasseh as tribes. So we're going to see how they came, how they were born. We go to the Esau's, because it's only the Esau's that mentions the other tribes. J doesn't care. Okay, Genesis 41 is where we see Manasseh and Ephraim come on the stage. Joseph went out from before Pharaoh and passed through the entire land of Egypt. And in the 7th year of plenty, the inhabitants of the land gathered food by handfuls. And he collected all the food of the 7 years that was in the land of Egypt, and he placed food in the cities. The food of the field surrounded the city, he put with it. And Joseph gathered grain like the sand of the sea in great abundance until one stopped counting, because there was no number. And to Joseph was born 2 sons before the year of the famine set in, whom Asnath, the daughter of Potipharah, the governor of On, bore to him. And Joseph named the firstborn Manasseh, for Elohim has caused me to forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the second one he named Ephraim, for Elohim has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. So this is where we get Manasseh and Ephraim, because they are part of the tribes of the northern kingdom, of what becomes the tribe of the northern kingdom. We are left with Benjamin. We get to Genesis 35. We look at the Esau's, and bingo, we see Benjamin. J doesn't mention it. Let's read about Benjamin. Genesis 35. And they journeyed from Bethel, and there was still some distance to come to Ephrat. And Rachel gave birth, and her labor was difficult. It came to pass, when she had such difficulty giving birth, that the midwife said to her, do not be afraid, for this one too is a son for you. And it came to pass, when her soul departed, for she died, that she named him Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. So Rachel died, and she was buried on the road to Ephrat, which is Bethlehem. Interesting. And Jacob erected a monument on her grave. This is the tombstone of Rachel until this day. What do we see? E mentions the names J left out. The group of stories that invoke Elohim, as we've seen, are the stories of Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Ephraim, Manasseh, Benjamin. J left these out. E mentions them. Okay? Beautiful. Hope you're following me. Now, why is J only interested in these four, or these three in the north? Why? In the J narrative, the first three of the four names on this list are the names of tribes who lost their territory and merged into other tribes. The only name of a tribe with existing territory in the J narrative is Judah. Pay attention carefully. Judah goes even further to justify the ascendancy of Judah, giving him the birthright. For Judah to get the birthright, it has to explain why Reuben didn't get it, why Simeon didn't get it, why Levi didn't get it, and why he got it. So Jay's focus is not about the other tribes. Jay is trying to give us some baloney how he became the tribe that got the blessing. So Jay doesn't concern himself with the other tribes. He's trying to justify to whoever is reading, no, these guys, technically in the ancient Near East, they were supposed to get it, but this is what they did. And we got the birthright. That's why Jay is not focused on the other tribes. It's just Reuben, Simon, Levi. And then it mentions itself, and then it doesn't mention the rest. So now with that, we ask, who gets the birthright? Who is given the birthright's blessing? Is Yaakov. Northern, not southern. It's important. Who is the person given the birthright blessing? It's someone from the north, not someone from the south. It's not Abraham, it's Jacob. So let's see the story that we get from Jay. You haven't seen this, it's going to blow your mind. What does Jay tell us? Jay brings us to Jacob's deathbed. Jay is going to tell us how they got their birthright. Genesis 49. It's all Jay. You know it. Let's read it. Jacob called for his sons and said, "Gather, and I will tell you what will happen to you at the end of days. Gather and listen, sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel, your father. Reuben." Now it's going to be what I call elimination by rough tactics. You know, you're going to use the pen to eliminate people. Elimination by rough tactics. Let's hear you, J. Author. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my strength, and the first of my might. You should have been superior in rank and superior in power. You have the restlessness of water, therefore you shall not have superiority. For you ascended upon your father's couch. Then you profaned him who ascended upon my bed. Okay, if Reuben doesn't get it, and it's going to be Simon or Levi. Well, Judah has a twist. Simon and Levi are brothers. Stolen instruments are their weapons. Let my soul not enter their council. My honor you shall not join their assembly. For in their wrath they killed a man, and with their will they hamstring a bull. Cursed be their wrath, for it is mighty, and their anger because It is harsh. I will separate them throughout Jacob. I will scatter them throughout Israel. So Reuben loses it, Simon loses it, Levi loses it. According to the J narrative, Judah is next. Okay, let's see. Judah. As for you, your brothers will acknowledge you. Your hand will be at the nape of your enemies, and your father's sons will prostrate themselves to you. A cub and a grown lion is Judah. From the prey, my son, you withdrew. He crouched, rested like a lion, and like a lion, who will rouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the student of the law from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and to him will be a gathering of people. So Judah is taking the leadership position here. Let me make this statement. They're highlighted in green, in yellow are just highlights of the J source. I just wanted to point out the names of the tribes that are mentioned. Correct. Shiloh's in the north. Yes. Okay. Then he goes on to Zebulun. Zebulun is mentioned. Then he goes on to Issachar, goes on to Dan, goes on to Gad, goes on to Asher, goes on to Naphtali, goes on to Joseph, goes on to Benjamin. In the Judah or in the J source, it is Judah that gets the birthright. It is Judah that is made the leader. And we get the J narrative to tell us that. E doesn't agree. This is beautiful. E doesn't agree. E has a different story. What does E tell us? Genesis 48. I'm focused on the ones that are not highlighted. Now it came to pass after these incidents that someone said to Joseph, "Behold, your father is ill." So he took his two sons with him, Manasseh and Ephraim. And someone told Jacob and said, "Behold, your son Joseph is coming to you." And Israel summoned his strength and sat up on the bed. Verse 8. Then Israel saw Joseph's sons, and he said, "Who are these?" Joseph said to his father, "These are my sons, whom Elohim gave me here." So he said, "Now bring them near to me, so that I may bless them." Now Israel's eyes had become heavy with age, to the extent that he could not see. So he drew them near to him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, "I had not expected to see even your face. And behold, Elohim has shown me your children too." And Joseph took them out from upon his, that is Jacob's knees, and he prostrated himself to the ground. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim at his right from Israel's left, and Manasseh at his left from Israel's right. And he brought them near to him. Now pay attention carefully. But Israel stretched out his right hand, and placed it on Ephraim's head, although he was the younger. And his left hand he placed on Manasseh's head. He guided his hands deliberately, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, so his hands are on the children, but he's pronouncing a blessing on Joseph, not the children yet. Elohim, before whom my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, walked. Elohim, who sustained me as long as I am alive, until this day. May the angel who redeemed me from all harm bless the youth. And may they be called by my name, and the name of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac. Okay, no problem. And may they multiply abundantly like fish in the midst of the land. And Joseph saw that his father was placing his right hand on Ephraim's head, and it displeased him. So he held up his father's hand to remove it from upon Ephraim's head, to place it on Manasseh's head. And Joseph said to his father, "Not so, father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head." But his father refused, and he said, "I know, my son, I know. He too will become a people, and he too will be great. But his younger brother will be greater than he, and his children's fame will fill the nations." Put that statement in your spirit. Verses 19, which I have highlighted. But his younger brother, which is Ephraim, will be greater than he, and his children's fame will fill the nations. So he blessed them on that day, saying, "With you Israel will bless, saying, may Elohim make you like Ephraim and like Manasseh." And he placed Ephraim before Manasseh. And Israel said to Joseph, "Behold, I am going to die, and Elohim will be with you, and he will return you to the land of your forefathers. And I have given you one portion over your brothers, which I took from the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow." Beautiful. In the E narrative, it is Ephraim who gets the right in E. The J says it's Judah. E says it's Ephraim. What is it about Ephraim? Why does the author of E developed? How should I put it? Why does the author of E develop the hierarchy to culminate not in any of Jacob's sons, but in one of his grandsons, who is not even the firstborn? Was there anything historically significant about the tribe of Ephraim in the writer's age? Of course. Ephraim was King Jeroboam's tribe. That was Jeroboam's capital city in Shechem. Shechem was located in the hills of Ephraim. Ephraim, in fact, was used as another name for the kingdom of Israel. Mr. Jason just put it in the chat. Isaiah 7. Yud-Heh-Vav shall bring upon you and upon your people and upon your father's house days which have not come, since the days that Ephraim turned away from Judah. He is not referring to the tribe of Ephraim. It's referring to the northern kingdom. It is used as another name for the kingdom of Israel. Jeremiah 7 does the same. In the E narrative, the person who gets the blessing is from the north. It's Ephraim. It's Jeroboam's tribe, territory. Remember, it says his fame shall be, let's read it, what I said. But his younger brother will be greater than he, and his children's fame will fill the nations. Is that true of Jeroboam? Why does Jeroboam II take on the name Jeroboam II? Of course, his fame filled the nation. Look at what Jacob says. He says, "Behold, I am going to die, and Elohim will be with you, and he will return you to the land of your forefathers." and I have given you one portion over your brothers. Portion? Let me pause here. Bring this up. Hope you can see my screen. Bible Hub. What, Genesis 48. Let's go there. 22. Okay, let's click on the Hebrew. This is the portion here. Let me highlight it for you. What do you see? The Hebrew word for portion. What is it?
Oh, it's Shechem.
Bingo. So the E source is playing play on words with a blessing that is being given. He's giving it to the capital, Shechem, which was the territory of Jeroboam. And he's saying that it's Ephraim who gets the birthright. Cannot make it up.
So you're actually explaining the thing about the two sticks then, Ephraim and Manasseh being joined together.
Being joined together. Northern tribe. It's important. So not only is the author is using a play on words, the Hebrew word that is translated here as portion is Shechem. It's giving you an extra portion. I've given you one portion more than your brothers. So you see how J says it's Judah who gets it. E says no, no, no. Ephraim. There's a reason why Ephraim is placed in front of Manasseh. There's a reason why, because it was the territory of, let's say, what became the northern kingdom if you remove Saul, Jeroboam the first. He was the first king. And then the most successful was Jeroboam the second. Territory of Ephraim. J disagrees with E. E disagrees with J. Who gets the birthright? Ephraim on the E side, Judah on the J side. Any questions till here?
Rabbi,
Madam
can
Pat.
you take it out of the biblical narrative and put it on the historical and pull up like in your mind the historical or archaeological time period when Shechem was surrounded by perhaps Egypt, and we had different groups of people trying to fight off Egypt. I think it was in the 14th century, right? It wasn't, I can't remember the guy's name. They were trying to fight off Egypt and consolidate the land.
What's his name? Shishak?
Yeah.
What's his
Yes.
name? Sheshank. Yes.
Sheshank, right?
Correct.
So would the narrative from the Torah that you just read fall into the 14th century, or would it fall into the 10th century? When I say fall in, I mean when I think of Shishak, trying to consolidate all the lands and fight off Egypt, I then start to think about Saul doing the same thing. So the narrative that you just read, that falls into the Saul kind of area, time period, correct?
Right after Saul is taken off the throne, who fills in the gap? We get into Jeroboam the first. Jeroboam the first has dealings with Shishak because we know he went to Egypt. So Madam Pamela is in next week's class. That's where the Exodus comes. His spirit is running ahead of her. She's putting everything together. Yes, we'll tackle that next week, Madam Pamela. Yeah. We're building the foundation for it, and it seems you get in it. Awesome.
Rabbi.
Mr. Mark.
So, a couple questions that I have. So, in one narrative, we read that Shechem was acquired through massacre. And
Correct.
in another narrative, we read that it was purchased. And here it's saying, which I took from the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow. So again, that's kind of like maybe a mix between the two, I guess. However, it seems to me that the blessing is that piece of Shechem, right? That was
Correct.
purchased or let's say acquired in one way or another. Would you agree with that? That is what's the blessing that's actually being passed on?
Correct, yes. So the birthright blessing is when the father leaves everything that he has for the first child to manage, or to be the custodian, pretty much, of. So here we get a narrative how maybe Judah, according to the Esau's, expands when he bought the land. Okay. But then again, I would explain. The Esau's, like I said, is not necessarily making a historical claim. There may be some history in it, but he has to follow the standard or the genre that Jay has set. So you cannot come in for people to read what you're also writing as a response. It has to match what has been written. You know, if you come and you are against the grain, maybe you wouldn't be that interested. So the E is not giving us a historical, this is how we did. Labayu purchased Shechem. No, that's not what it's doing. It's playing Jay's game, but it's setting the record straight, if I can put it that way.
Right. So, but here's the thing about that. In the source of the massacre, Jacob was totally against that.
Correct.
Here,
He's
seemed
my
like
sword.
okay. So I just wanted to get that straight. And the other thing is that the blessing is not all the land from the Egypt River to the Euphrates River.
Correct. It's the land Shechem in the north that he's acquired.
It's just Shechem, that which and for some reason the other tribes, like they're not even in the room when he's handing out the blessings. However, but they are there for the curses though. So, but I'm gonna leave that alone. Anyway,
I know, right?
This is great.
Correct. So, you don't have to sermon because it tells us the writer's time. It tells us what the writer knows. The writer knows that the most successful king was Jeroboam II. Why did Jeroboam II take the name Jeroboam? Well, he took the name Jeroboam because he's continuing the legacy of Jeroboam I. So we can pinpoint where he's standing. We can pinpoint how he's looked at all the kings of the north, and he's saying that, see, the reason why Jeroboam became the first king of the north, if you remove Saul, is because of a blessing that was passed to him, because of a birthright that was passed to him. Who was the most successful king, according to me, is Jeroboam II. why does he take the name Jeroboam II? He's taking the name of the founder. I'll give him as the founder. Saul is a different beast or ball game or narrative. So he gets the blessing according to E. According to J is Judah that gets the blessing. So we see that the J and E are telling different stories, different perspectives, different narratives. One is setting the record straight.
Rabbi,
Mr. Jason.
I have a map, and it shows Jeroboam II's like controlling territory, and he controlled Judah at one point too. Like they were like, sort of like a vassal state to him. So,
Yep, all the way in the south.
Makes sense. Yep.
I want to know if anyone thinks that Judah was the water drawers and the hewers of wood.
Say it again, sorry?
I'm wondering if Judah were the original drawers of water and hewers of wood.
Drawers of water and hewers of wood. Oh, could be. I don't know. Could be. So Ephraim gets the blessing, like I said. And the reason why he gets the blessing is because Ephraim was King Jeroboam's tribe. Jeroboam's capital city, which was Shechem, was located in the hills of Ephraim. Put that in your spirit. It's important. You will chase that blessing. The blessing, the birthright is or stays in Ephraim. You would see. Like clockwork here. So we've seen who gets the double portion or who gets the birthright. J says it's Judah. E says no, it's Ephraim. Somewhere in the north. Okay. Who saved Joseph from death? Who saved Joseph? We're building this thing up. Oh, should we stop and consider next week? I have 11:33, or we should go on. Buy another 30 minutes? Let's do another 30 minutes. Let's go for it. Genesis 37. Who saved Joseph? So, green is the P source. Blue is the redactor. Pink is the J source. Anything that is not highlighted is the E source. Let's read the J source first. When Joseph was 17 years old, being a shepherd, he was with his brothers with the flocks, and he was a lad, and was with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought evil tales about them to their father, because he was a son of his old age, and he made him a fine woolen coat. And Joseph dreamed the dream and told his brothers, and they continued to hate him. And he said to them, "Listen now to my dream, which I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the midst of the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves encircled it, and prostrated themselves to my sheaf." So his brothers said to him, "Will you reign over us, or will you govern us?" And they continued further to hate him on account of his dreams and on account of his words. And he again dreamed another dream, and he related it to his brothers, and he said, "Behold, I have dreamed another dream, and behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were prostrating themselves to me." And he told it to his father and to his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Will we come, I, your mother, and your brothers, to prostrate ourselves to you to the ground?" So his brothers envied him, but his father awaited the matter. 19. So they said one to another, "Behold, that dreamer is coming. So now let us kill him, and we will cast him into one of the pits. And we will say, a wild beast devoured him, and we will see what will become of his dreams." 23. Now it came to pass when Joseph came to his brothers that they stripped Joseph of his shirt, of the fine woolen coat which was upon him. And they lifted their eyes and saw, and behold, a caravan of Ishmaelites was coming from Gilead. And their camels were carrying spices, balm, lotus, going to take it down to Egypt. And Judah said to his brothers, what is the gain if we slay our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, but our hand shall not be upon him. For he is our brother, our flesh. And his brothers hearkened. And they pulled and lifted Joseph from the pit, and they sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 silver pieces, and they brought Joseph to Egypt. And they took Joseph's coat, and they slaughtered a kid, and they dipped the coat in the blood. And they sent the fine woolen coat, and they brought it to their father, and they said, we have found this. Now recognize whether it is your son's coat or not. He recognized it, and he said, it is my son's coat. A wild beast has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn up. And Jacob rent his garments, and he put sackcloth on his loins, and he mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters arose to console him, but he refused to be consoled. For he said, because I will descend on account of my son as a mourner to the grave. And his father wept for him. Who saved Joseph according to the J source?
Rabbi?
Judah.
Yeah.
But
I was just going to say Judah.
it's Judah. Oh, it's not says. J says Judah. Who saved Joseph? J says Judah saved Joseph. Okay, let's read the E account. Same narrative. Genesis 37. I'm going to focus on the ones that are not highlighted. Verses 3. Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons, and his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers. So they hated him, and they could not speak with him peacefully. And his brothers went to pasture their father's flock in Shechem. Now we know we are in the E. And Israel said to Joseph, are your brothers not pasturing in Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them. And he said to him, here I am. So he said to him, go now and see to your brothers' welfare and the welfare of the flocks, and bring me back word. So he sent him from the valley of Hebron and came to Shechem. Then a man found him, and behold, he was straying in the field. And the man asked him, saying, what are you looking for? And he said, I am looking for my brothers. Tell me now, where are they pasturing? And the man said, they have traveled away from here. For I overheard them say, let us go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers, and he found them in Dothan. And they saw him from afar. And when he had not yet drawn near to them, they plotted against him to put him to death. 21. But Reuben heard, and he saved him from their hands. And he said, let us not deal him a deadly blow. And Reuben said to them, do not shed blood. Cast him into this pit, which is in the desert, but do not lay a hand upon him, in order to save him from their hands, to return him to his father. And they took him and cast him into the pit. Now the pit was empty, there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat a meal. Then Midianite men, merchants, passed by, and Reuben returned to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit. So he rent his garment, and he returned to his brothers and said, the boy is gone, and where will I go? And the Midianites sold him to Egypt, to Potiphar, Pharaoh's chamberlain, chief of the slaughterers. Who saved Joseph in the E account?
Reuben, Rabbi.
E says Reuben. Any comments on it? I don't have any comments. I'm going to move on to Joseph's death.
So Rabbi, I want to know who was Judah talking to when he said, let's sell him? It's like was Reuben not there? Like he's like in charge of all sheep and everything like that. So like he just happened to wander off, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But why does Judah have to get the birthright? We know it's a made up story, but why not Reuben? Why? What's going on with Judah?
Well, Judah
Himself at the time?
Correct. The north, like I said, the north was on the world stage. Judah was a village somewhere. Judah did not get big until the Assyrians took the north, 720, 721 BCE. You have a migration of the northern refugees into Judah. Judah from nowhere becomes a big place. The north bring writing. Judah is prospering because now they are dealing with the Assyrians. So Judah is writing a narrative. Judah has a view or a dream, I'll call it a dream of this united monarchy, and they're using the pen to do that. Well, if there's going to be a united monarchy, Judah is the head. Judah is the one who will be the face of Israel. I like that. Judah is going to be the face.
I got it. Thank you so much.
To justify it, you have to give us these narratives. And lo and behold, you have somebody who also has interest in the north, and they're writing to set the record straight. Let's say that. Yeah. So, yeah. Who saved Joseph? It depends on which source you're looking at. J says it's Judah. E says it's Reuben. Makes sense because Reuben is the oldest. They'll listen to Reuben when he says something. So when he says put him in the pit, that is what they're going to do. You don't disrespect him. He's way older than you. He's got the authority as the firstborn. So if we're going to buy any of the narratives, E makes sense. But see, J has to have Judah leave home, a whole lot of complications. Too complicated, J. You notice that E is simple, to the point. Awesome. Now let's look at Joseph's deathbed request. Remember, Ephraim. Ephraim is the one that gets the birthright. Ephraim is the territory of Jeroboam the first. And Shechem. Shechem is in the hill of Ephraim. Okay. Joseph is going to make a deathbed request. Take my bones away from here, from Egypt. He does that in Genesis 50. I'm going to read. Let's read the J source and then read the E source to see what it's saying here. Genesis 50. Now Joseph's brothers saw that their father had died, and they said, perhaps Joseph will hate us and return to us all the evil that we did to him. So they commanded messengers to go to Joseph to say, your father commanded us before his death, saying, so shall you say to Joseph, please forgive now your brother's transgression and their sin, for they did evil to you. Now please forgive the transgression of your servants, of the Elohim of your father. Joseph wept when they spoke to him. His brothers also went and fell upon him, and they said, behold, we are your slaves. But Joseph said to them, don't be afraid, for am I instead of Elohim? Indeed, you intended evil against me, but Elohim designed it for good, in order to bring about what is at present, to keep a great populace alive. So now do not fear, I will sustain you and your small children. And he comforted them and spoke to their hearts. So Joseph dwelt in Egypt, he and his father's household, and Joseph lived 110 years. Okay, so this is the J narrative. J is saying that, we did wrong, blah, blah, blah. But notice that when Joseph is speaking in J, he's not using Yud He Vav He. It's very important. You have a conversation in J, but when Joseph is speaking, he uses Elohim. Elohim is on his lips, not Yud He Vav He, even though it's a J source, which makes sense. Okay. Now, what does the E source tell us about Joseph when he was about to die? Joseph saw children of a third generation born to Ephraim. Also, the sons of Micah, the sons of Manasseh, were born on Joseph's knees. Joseph said to his brothers, I am going to die. Elohim will surely remember you and take you up out of this land to the land that he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And Joseph adjured the children of Israel, saying, Elohim will surely remember you, and you shall take up my bones out of here. And Joseph died at the age of 110 years, and they embalmed him, and he was placed in the coffin in Egypt. So Joseph makes a deathbed request in Egypt that someday his bones should be carried back to his homeland for burial. This concern for the burial of Joseph only occurs in E. J doesn't care about it. J doesn't comment on it. It's not interesting to J. J is not interested. So it's an E account. Okay, when does this take place? Now we come to the book of Exodus. I'm pulling the E source. It came to pass, Exodus 13, when Pharaoh let the people go, that Elohim did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, for it was near. Because Elohim said, let the people reconsider when they see war and return to Egypt. So Elohim led the people around by the way of the desert to the Red Sea, and the children of Israel were armed when they went out of Egypt. Moses took Joseph's bones with him, for he, Joseph, had adjured the sons of Israel, saying, Elohim will surely remember you, and you shall bring up my bones from here with you. And make the statement. What is in red is just a highlight of the statement in the E source. Okay. 20. They traveled from Sukkot, and they came to Etham, at the edge of the desert. And Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh went before them by day in the pillar of cloud, to cause it to lead them on the way, and at night in the pillar of fire, to give them light. They thus could travel day and night. He did not move away the pillar of cloud by day or the pillar of fire at night from before the people. So yes, they did take his bones in the book of Exodus. They did take it. Okay, where did they bury his bones? We come to Joshua 24. And the bones of Joseph, which the children of Israel had brought out of Egypt, they buried where? In Shechem, northern tribe. In the parcel of ground that Jacob bought, Mr. Mark, from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem. So now we have yikes. Now we have Joshua, a northern hero, confirming what the Esau said, how they acquired Shechem, blah, blah. But true, Mr. Mark, not Machpelah. No, he's buried in Shechem. And we are told, in the parcel of ground which Jacob bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of money. So it confirms what we read in Genesis, the Esau's. And they became the inheritance of the children of Joseph. And Eleazar, the son of Aaron, died, and they buried him in the hill of Phinehas, his son, which was given to him in Mount Ephraim. So J doesn't concern himself with this because Joshua is a northern person. The Esau concerns himself with it. Because why? The blessing is given to Ephraim, and Ephraim is Joseph's son. So Joseph is buried where? Ephraim. Shechem is on the hillside of Ephraim. Who does the burying? Joshua does, who was a northern hero. In E, Moshe's faithful assistant is Joshua. Let's read something small about him. Amalek came and fought with Israel in Rephidim. So Moshe said to Joshua, pick men for us and go out and fight against Amalek. This is all an E source. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the staff of Elohim in my hand. Joshua did as Moshe had told him to fight against Amalek, and Moshe, Aaron, and Hur ascended to the top of the hill. It came to pass that when Moshe would raise his hand, Israel would prevail. And when he would lay down his hand, Amalek would prevail. Now Moshe's hand was heavy, so they took a stone and placed it under him, and he sat on it. Aaron and Hur supported his hand, one from this side and one from the other side. So he was with his hands in faith until sunset. Joshua weakened Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. So, hey, what do we have here? Joshua was the northern hero. He is identified as coming from the tribe of Ephraim, Jeroboam's tribe. Joshua's tomb is in the territory of Ephraim. And his work culminates in a covenant ceremony where, not in Hebron, Ashadam. This is the E source. In J, on the other hand, Joshua plays no role. He plays no role at all. But E has Joshua next to Moshe. Well, you cannot mention Joshua and not mention Caleb, correct? Anytime we mention Joshua, Caleb is right there. Let's look at the spies. Moshe sends a group of spies from the wilderness into the promised land. All but one of the spies reports that the land is impregnable because its inhabitants are so huge and fierce. The one spy who challenges this report and encourages the people to have faith is Caleb. Let's read the account in Numbers. I'm not interested in the P source, I'm interested in the J source. What does J tell us? Numbers 13. Moses sent them to scout the land of Canaan, and he said to them, go up this way in the south and climb up the mountain. Pause. Where's the south?
Isn't that Jerusalem?
Correct.
Judah?
It's in Judah.
Wow.
So, I mean, off the bat, you know that is a J source because it is interested in the south. Okay. Go up this way in the south and climb up the mountain. You shall see what kind of land it is and the people who inhabit it. They didn't go to the north. They only went to the south. And are they strong or weak? Are they few or many? And what of the land they inhabit? Is it good or bad? And what of the cities in which they reside? Are they in camps or in fortresses? What is the soil like? Is it fat or lean? Are there any trees in it or not? You shall be courageous and take from there the fruit of the land. It was the season when the first fruits began to ripen. They came to the valley of Eshkelon and they cut a branch with a cluster of grapes. They carried it on a pole between two people, and they also took some pomegranates and figs. They called that place the valley of Ashkelon because of the cluster skull the children of Israel cut from there. 27. They told him and said, we came to the land to which you sent us, and it is flowing with milk and honey. And this is its fruit. However, the people who inhabit the land are mighty, and the cities are extremely huge and fortified. And there we saw even the offsprings of the giants. The Amalekites dwell in the south land, while the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountainous regions. The Canaanites dwell on the coast and alongside the Jordan. Caleb silenced the people to hear about Moshe. And he said, "We can surely go up and take possessions of it, for we can indeed overcome it." But the men who went up with him said, "We are unable to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we." There we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, descendants from the giants. In our eyes, we seemed like grasshoppers, and so we were in their eyes. Okay. According to the J story, Moshe sends a group of spies from the wilderness into the promised land. All but one of the spies report that the land is impregnable because its inhabitants are so huge and fierce. The one spy who challenges the report and encourages the people to have faith is Caleb. In the story, the spies travel through the southern desert of the land, the hill country, as far as Hebron. All of these places are in Judah's territory. They're not in the south. In J, the spies only see Judah. As for the hero of the story, Caleb, he's the ancestor of the Calebites. Well, the Calebites held territory in the hill country of Judah. Their territory, in fact, included Hebron, which is Judah's capital. So it makes sense that Caleb is the hero of the narrative here, according to J, because it fits J's concerns, J's interests. That is why I said from the onset that the person who wrote J was particularly concerned with the kingdom of Judah, and the person who wrote E was particularly interested in the kingdom of Israel. And I think we've demonstrated that. Now, one more question in conclusion as we close. What was happening in their world that prompted them to write these things? I think we can use the Jacob and Esau narrative to get an idea what was happening. Let's read the Jacob and Esau narrative in closing so we can answer these questions. We use it as a template. You will notice that Genesis 25 is predominantly a J text. I'm interested in the J source. Let's start from 21. And Isaac prayed to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh opposite his wife because she was barren. And Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh accepted his prayer. And Rebekah his wife conceived, and the children struggled within her, and she said, If it be so, why am I like this? And she went to inquire of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. And Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 kingdoms will separate from your innards. And one kingdom will become mightier than the other kingdom, and the elder will serve the younger. And her days to give birth were completed, and behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first one emerged ruddy. He was completely like a coat of hair. And they named him Esau. And afterwards, his brother emerged, and his hand was grasping Esau's heel, and he named him Jacob. Now Isaac was 60 years old when she gave birth to them. And the youth grew up, and Esau was a man who understood hunting, a man of the field, whereas Jacob was an innocent man dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because his game was in his mouth, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Now Jacob cooked a pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, Pour into me some of this red pottage, for I am faint. He was therefore named Edom. And Jacob said, Sell me as of this day your birthright. Esau replied, Behold, I am going to die, so why do I need this birthright? And Jacob said, Swear to me as of this day. So he swore to him. And he sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and a pottage of lentils, and he ate and drank, and arose and left. And Esau despised the birthright. Okay, this is a narrative that we get from Jay. Now, Jay continues with Isaac actually going to enforce what Jay tells us happened in Genesis 25. Let's go to Genesis 27, where Isaac blesses them. Also a Jay text. It came to pass when Isaac was old and his eyes were too dim to see, that he called Esau his older son, and he said to him, My son. And he said to him, Here I am. And he said, Behold, now I have grown old. I do not know the day of my death. So now sharpen your implements and your sword, and take your bow, and go forth to the field, and hunt game for me, and make for me tasty foods as I like, and bring them to me. And I will eat, in order that my soul will bless you before I die. But Rebekah overheard when Isaac spoke to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt game, to bring it. And Rebekah said to Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I have heard your father speaking to Esau your brother, saying, Bring me game, and make me tasty foods, and I will eat, and I will bless you before Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, before my death. And now, my son, hearken to my voice, to what I am commanding you. Go now to the flock, and take for me from there 2 choice kids, and I will make them tasty foods for your father, as he likes. And you shall bring them to your father, that he may eat, in order that he bless you before his death. And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, Behold, my brother Esau is a hairy man, whereas I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will touch me, and I will appear to him as a deceiver, and I will bring upon myself a curse and not a blessing. And his mother said to him, On me is your curse, my son. Only hearken to my voice and go. Take them to me. So he went, and he took, and he brought them to his mother, and his mother made tasty food as his father liked. And Rebekah took the costly garments of Esau, her elder son, which were with her in the house, and she dressed Jacob, her younger son. And the hides of the kids she put on his hand and on the smoothness of his neck. And she gave the tasty foods and the bread that she had made into the hand of Jacob, her son. We know the story. And he came to his father and said, My father. And he said, Here I am. Who are you, my son? And Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you have spoken to me. Please rise, sit down, and eat of my game, so that my soul will bless me, so that your soul will bless me. And Isaac said to his son, Now is it that you have found it so quickly? How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, your power, prepared it for me, or before me. And Isaac said to Jacob, Please come closer, so that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esau or not. So Jacob drew near to Isaac his father, and he felt him, and he said, The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he did not recognize him, because his hands were hairy, like the hands of his brother Esau. And he blessed him. And he said, Are you indeed my son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, Serve it to me, that I may eat of the game of my son, so that my soul will bless you. And he served him, and he ate, and brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said to him, Please come closer and kiss me, my son. And he came closer, and he kissed him, and he smelled the fragrance of his garment, and he blessed him, and he said, Behold, the fragrance of my son is like the fragrance of a field, which Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh has blessed. And may Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh give you of the dew of the heavens, and of the fatness of the earth, and an abundance of grain and wine. Nations shall serve you, and kingdoms shall bow down to you. You shall be a master over your brothers, and your mother's sons shall bow down to you. Those who curse you shall be cursed, and those who bless you shall be blessed. And it came to pass, when Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and it came to pass, Jacob had just left his father Isaac's presence, that his brother Esau came from his hunt. And he too had made tasty foods, and he brought them to his father. And he said to his father, Let my father arise and eat. of the game of his son, so that your soul will bless me. And his father Isaac said to him, Who are you? And he said, I am your son, your firstborn, Esau. And Isaac shouted a great shudder, and he said, Who then is the one who hunted game and brought it to me? And I ate of everything while you had not yet come. And I blessed him. He too shall be blessed. When Esau heard his father's words, he cried out a great and bitter cry. And he said to his father, Bless me too, O my father. And he said, Your brother came with cunning and took your blessing. And he said, Is it for this reason that he was named Jacob? For he has deceived me twice. He took my birthright, and behold, now he has taken my blessing. And he said, Have ye not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said to Esau, Behold, I made him a master over you. And I gave him all your brothers as servants, and I have sustained him with corn and wine. So for you then, what shall I do, my son? And Esau said to his father, Have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father. And Esau raised his voice and wept. And his father Isaac answered and said to him, Behold, your dwelling place shall be the fat places of the earth, and of the dew of the heaven from above. And you shall live by your sword, and you shall serve your brother. And it will be when you grieve that you will break your yoke off your neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing that his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, Let the days of mourning for my father draw near. I will then kill my brother Jacob. And Rebekah was told of the words of Esau, her elder son. And she sent and called Jacob, her younger son. And she said to him, Behold, your brother Esau regrets his relationship to you and wishes to kill you. And now, my son, hearken to my voice and arise, flee to my brother Laban to Haran. And you shall dwell with him for a few days until your brother's wrath have subsided, until your brother's rage subsides from you. And he forgot what he did to him. And he forgets what you did to him. And I will send and bring you from there. Why should I be bereft of both of you on one day? Beautiful narrative, famous one, we all know it. If you notice, it's predominantly a J source. It's predominantly J. It's not E, it's J. Okay. Jacob and Esau, I have some very good questions to ask. Number one, why red lentil stew? Why twin brothers? Why the revelation to Rebekah that her younger son's descendants would dominate her older sons? Why does Jacob get the birthright and the blessing? Why does Esau/Edom get a blessing that you will break his yoke from your shoulders? Why did someone write these stories with these details? Well, the answers are tied to the life of the writer's world. The person who is writing, what he's telling us in such a narrative, which seems to be a good one, is tied to the life of his world. Let's answer these questions in closing. Why red lentil stew? Well, the story says Esau became known after that. The lentil stews, that's how he became named, as red. Well, the word for red in Hebrew is Edom. So, Esau is traditionally regarded as the father of the Edomites. Picture this. The person who is writing is sitting in Jerusalem or Judah writing, and next door to him, they are the Edomites. And he's trying to tell us where the Edomites came from. So he fashions a story where the Edomites, they're called Esau, and because they are red, they like red stuff. Because Edom in the Hebrew is red, the person comes up with a narrative of red lentil stews, where the person's name is changed from Esau to Edom. But it was never Esau. It was always Edom. You see what's going on? The territory was never called the territory of Esau. No, it's called the territory of Edom. Edom in the Hebrew is red. So now that person is telling us a story, and he's using a food which is red to tell us that, hey, this is the person, his name was Esau actually, but he likes soup red, so he became Edom. No, that's not the case. But the writer sees Edom next door. Okay, let's go on. Why twin brothers? Well, the people of Judah regarded the Edomites as king, as related to them ethnically and also linguistically. Edom worshipped Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. They also worship Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh as well. So, yes, there is something there. They regarded the Edomites as king. So now you have twin stories. Why the revelation to Rebekah that her younger son's descendants would dominate her older sons? Simple. The young kingdom of Judah, supposedly under King David, defeated the older kingdom of Edom and dominated it for 200 years. So the historical account is captured in that story that we just read. The younger, which is Judah, would dominate Edom, which is the older of the two kingdoms. Why does Jacob get the birthright and the blessing? Because Judah became larger and more prosperous than Edom and dominated it. This is what happened historically. The writer captures it into a story. Why does Esau or Edom get a blessing that, remember the blessing Isaac gave? You will break his yoke from your shoulders. Well, Edom historically finally broke free and achieved its independence during the reign of the Judean king Jehoram. What has the writer done? We now know where the writer is sitting. We now know what the writer is doing. These stories occur in J and not in E. Why is that? J is from Judah, like I mentioned. And Judah bordered, as they had a border together, bordered Edom. Israel did not. So Israel, the E, doesn't have to make up this story. They don't share a border with Edom. Judah does. So Judah is the one who makes up this story. E doesn't have any say in this at all. On each point, the details of the stories correspond to the historical record. So the J author composed the stories of his people's ancestors with an eye to explaining and justifying the world situation in which he lived. That is what he's doing. His task was, or is, I don't know how to put it, to compose a story that reflected and explained the political and social realities of the world that he knew. And anyone who reads the story of Jacob and Esau can see how well he succeeded in doing that. Were they ever twins? Did they ever kneel in front of Isaac? It is yours to judge. What have we done today? We have chased what three people found out: that they are doublets in the biblical text. What they found out that even in the Esau's, there's another source. We have chased what they've said. We have pulled the text together apart. We have identified the J, the E, the P, the D. We haven't done the D, the R, and we've read them on its own account. And we see that sometimes they may agree, sometimes they may disagree, sometimes one source is not concerned about what the other source is talking about, etc. This is what the scholars saw, and they said, wait a minute. This thing was not written by Moshe. He could possibly not have written it. It's not coming from his hand. These are the writers of the text. It's good to distinguish them, to understand their theology, their language, their concerns, etc. With this foundation, now we can look at the Exodus tradition, how E sees it, how J sees it, and then we can look at the historical account. Look at the text, and then we can look at the historical account of where the tradition came from. The key person in the Exodus narrative is Jeroboam the First. Read Jeroboam the First, and you think you're reading about Moshe. That is for another class.